Hello there, my name is Sixo, but more on that later, as now it's time for a brand new unboxing video. And you'll find a link to TIFF Source's listing for today's toy in the video description. So when you're done here, why not head on over and give your wallet a little flutter? Especially as today it's a fan favourite character that simply everyone has been clamouring for. It's Earthrise Fasttrack. Okay, he may not have the notoriety of your Optimuses or your Megatrons or any of those other guys, but I'm still looking forward to this one, so let's get to it. Right then, here is Fasttrack in his packaging, and I've mentioned this in a couple of reviews recently, but I am a big fan of that Earthrise packaging indeed. Looks really, really nice. Love the colours, this kind of green and everything there. I just think is absolutely superb. Little bit of artwork on the side just there. A couple of pictures of this toy in action on the back. It's all good stuff. So I have to say I really ummed and ahed on this one ever since I got Scorponok really, and then this was announced because, you know, I did like the idea of it, and obviously I've got the G1 toy, so, you know, in that regard, God, these boxes are always a bit difficult to get open at the corner there. In that regard, you know, it seemed like maybe it would be a fun one to do. I mean, in some ways, it does still seem strange to me to have guys like this being, you know, an entirely separate purchase. Anyway, in the end, I was just sold by how good it looks from some of the pictures I've seen, and, you know, I figured I just really wanted to check it out for myself. Right, and here's the complete contents of the box. You've got the toy itself. He's actually got two guns, one in hand already and another one there, and then this little spike as well, a little kind of sword tip. And you know what, straight out of the box, I think this guy looks exceptional. Really, really cool design. I absolutely dig it. I love how they've kind of taken what was, you know, essentially an accessory for the original Scorponok and kind of really gone to town on him and made him, you know, a complete thing in its own right. And I think they have been really creative with these kind of bots. I know I sort of said that, you know, I still got to kind of get used to them being a separate package, but to their credit, they've really made the most of it as well and been quite creative. And I just think that looks exceptional. Really nice colours considering that it's predominantly grey. You know, there's a nice bit of blue, orange, red, all really decent highlights, so that looks good. And actually he makes for a very tidy little bot all to himself. You know, he's got a little bit of a backpack there with this kind of cockpit section, although that does come off if indeed you really want it to. But actually, generally speaking, you know what? I just think he looks the business. Very stylized but very cool head sculpt there. Actually with a little bit of silver paint just on the antenna just there as well, which is really cool, and obviously a bit of red paint for the visor. I think it looks great. Love this little blue kind of windshield sections on his chest as well. I don't know, something about this guy's design really gives me vibes about the you know, the Waruda faction from Diaclone, which of course were the like baddies from Diaclone. If you've, you know, not familiar with that whole universe, you know, the pre-Transformers universe, and indeed from the reboot, they had this kind of insectoid look to them, kind of mechanical insectoid look, and this guy feels very similar to that somehow. There's a little close-up on that chest section. It is painted, and you know, whether it's the black paint around the trim or the actual blue inside, it's all really nicely applied. More paint on sections such as these little nibs just here, and obviously the blue just there, and that all looks good too. Really like the moulding going on just here on the kind of crotch piece, and like these kind of cylindrical hips as well. Think that's really cool. Legs look absolutely ace with these sort of 6 orange wheels on either side, and again some nice moulding. And you know, even the arms with this kind of little pattern here and these 3 stripes, I just think it all looks really, really cool. Now, as I mentioned, he does come straight out the box with one of his guns in hand already. You can go ahead and put the second one in if you so wish. Alternatively, you can actually peg it into his shoulder section, just like that, just kind of tops on there. So you could have them both on the shoulders, one in the hand, or, you know, however you want it, really. There's options. There is also that little tip of the sword weapon, which can, I believe, just fit into his hand like so, giving him a bit of knife action at the same time. So needless to say, he's fairly kitted out in terms of the old weaponry. There's even this little nub just on the back of his arms just there, so if you want to store the blade just out the way, then you can put it just there. Yeah, you know, so all things considered, I think he looks exceptional. I think really great update on the original design, completely its own thing, very different to a lot of you know, classic Transformers stuff as well. It's kind of got its own unique look, but I really dig that. I think they've gone to town on him, and it's paid off. Now, articulation wise, of course, you have got head rotation just like that. The head doesn't actually move up and down at all, but that's fine. You've got a good bit of articulation at the shoulder, up and down like that, and then there is another joint which just takes it up slightly at the side. That is as far as it will go, though. The arms won't go any further than that, but that's okay. And then there is obviously a bit of elbow bend and a bit of bicep swivel as well. so just a little bit stiff, there you go. That's as far as the elbows go as well, just to 90 degrees, and you do have a bit of waist swivel. The hands are fixed though, no movement in the hands. And then on the lower half, of course, you've got a bit of waist swivel going on there, very freely moving. And then for the hips, you know, they come all the way up, actually just slightly past 90 degrees, just a little bit past anyway, and then out to the side as well. You've even got a bit of rotation just there at the hip, which is very nice, always like that. And then the knees will go way past 90 degrees. There you go, that's really good. I think we'll be able to get him into a kneel stance. We'll give that a go in just a minute, which I'm always a fan of. And then there is a bit of ankle tilt just there. Out to the side, which is very nice, and even a bit of toe articulation. So overall, quite a lot. I mean, just check that out. Dare I say that's a lot more posability than I was expecting in this dude. You know, absolutely fantastic at pulling off something like a superhero landing pose, the old Iron Man 3 pose. I think he does it really nicely. And that's just because there's just so many good joints in this thing, particularly in the legs. You know, as I say, the shoulders only come up so far, but honestly, it's great. What can I say? It's really good posability in this toy. And you know, again, pulling off a kneeling pose like a boss. What can I say? And I just think he looks absolutely awesome. I mean, actually, this is probably going to be, let's be fair, the best version in modern times of this character that we're ever going to see. I don't think you're going to get many more attempts at this guy, old Fasttrack. But assuming that we never do get another one, well, this is pretty good. And again, I really like the way that these weapons, you know, when you got them in both hands, the way they look kind of mounted over the hands itself. That's very evocative of the G1 toy, you know, which kind of had the guns in place, kind of over the hands, almost making them look like stingers in the kind of Scorpion theme. Now, of course, speaking of the G1 toy, here he is, and you can see actually just how much detail Hasbro have copied over from this guy. Okay, I mean, I think they've done a really nice job. Even sections such as these little ridges on his legs is one, obviously that on the original toy, because it's, I mean, it is literally an accessory that comes with the original Scorponok. You know, the legs are not separate; they're just one whole piece. But those little ridges are copied over just here. The way the wheels sit on the side of the legs is perfect. You know, again, the detail that I already mentioned in the arms is all there. These three little ridges just there are all copied over. The chest. I mean, it looks more like a face here than I'd even thought of here, but again, it's got that kind of insectoid nature kind of been drawn out of it with the little highlights in the molding, but it's all very reminiscent. And even the head sculpt as well is kind of on point. So I just think incredible stuff, really, that they took this guy who is cool. I always liked him, but he was always a bit of an afterthought, you know, just like one of Scorponok's accessories, essentially, and that they've built him up to this. And I just think, wow, what a great job. And in that regard, he does an even better job than this guy, who of course was the you know, upgraded version of Full Tilt that came with Titan's Return Triptychon. Of course, he was packaged in with Triptychon. It wasn't a separate release, but actually that is you know, a redo, an updated version of this guy, who's the original Full Tilt with the G1 Triptychon. You know, you can see that clearly there's a bit of love going on behind the scenes for these city bots and some of their partners in crime, as it were. And what better evidence is there of that than this? Now, in terms of other comparisons, you can see him here with some of the other Earthrise figures that are out on the market at the moment. You've got Sunstreaker, Alternate Universe Optimus Prime, and Trailbreaker, all of whom have been reviewed on my channel just recently as well, so check those out. And yeah, I think he shapes up really nicely, has to be said. And really, just out of my own curiosity, here he is with a couple of masterpiece Decepticons. You've got Galvatron and Astro Train, both of which are from Fans Toys Sovereign and Fans Toys Thomas. Ridiculous name, there you go. And that's just to see how it looks, really, as you know, in case you were kind of considering this guy for a masterpiece scale display, that's how it would look. And then in terms of other comparisons, what could be better than the big guy himself? This is Earthrise Scorponok, looking magnificent as always. I absolutely love this toy. If you haven't seen my unboxing video then of this guy, it was a while back now and very different setup, but do give it a look. And I do think that they work really nicely together, actually. There's a really decent vibe between these two figures, as you might anticipate and hope for. And yeah, as I say, I really think that they've nailed it. Again, it's interesting to see what they've done with, you know, such a little guy on the original Scorponok mold, but they've really kind of gone to town on it and given it new life, and I think this is the payoff ultimately. And lo and behold, Fasttrack ends up being about the same height as the Zarek Headmaster, so depending on how that works for you. Not to forget, of course, that this guy is also a Headmaster, and actually his head transforms into a tiny little figure, so there you go. Right, well, we're going to go ahead and check out transformation anyway, and actually this guy has several different modes. Actually, you could make an argument for 3 of them, and being a kind of weaponizer figure, he kind of comes apart, so lots of parts forming, in case that's not your bag, but let's give it a look anyway. Right, and here is Fasttrack in his vehicle mode, tank mode, however you want to think of it, but that is it. And I actually think it looks pretty cool. Transformation-wise, it's an interesting one. Lots of parts forming, as I said already, which, may be a turn-off for some people. It really doesn't bother me, to be honest. I still think it's hugely creative, seeing how all the different parts come into their separate components and then piece back together. I think it's really clever, and it all, snaps together really nicely. So yeah, and as I say, the vehicle mode, I actually think it looks great. I mean, it won't be for everybody. Some people might be thinking, what on earth is it? But, it's still bright and colourful, and I think it looks pretty purposeful, actually. I think, they've done a nice job with it. You've got a kind of an obvious head here. But it is sort of hidden just by this kind of cockpit section, which again looks really nice with the paint and everything else. And for my part, I think it works. I mean, bearing in mind again that this is a kind of recreation of that original city bot, the kind of city guardian or whatever with the original Scorponok that never had a kind of earthen vehicle mode. This is about as classic Cybertronian alt mode as I think you're going to get. I mean, in that sense, it's probably worth bringing in the original toy at this stage, just so that you can see what it is that they're going for here and kind of, what the original homage is all about. And in that regard, I do think it's a significant upgrade. I mean, the fact that it even has a kind of cockpit now, it's got, as I said earlier, these little painted kind of stingers, I guess you could call them, in the kind of scorpion theme, whereas actually, on the original toy, that's the top of the Fasttrack's head, and they're unpainted. The orange is a nice match. It's actually a bit more vivid, a bit more saturated on the original toy, which is quite nice, I have to say. It actually makes the new toy look a little bit muted by comparison, but still, it's nice. And yeah, I just think, as I say, it's a very worthy upgrade on this original design. Yes, it's bizarre, but I still think it's cool. Now, of course, here we've still got this little tip of the blade weapon mounted on his shoulder, and that is purposeful. That's how they show you to do it in the instructions, but you can remove it as well. I mean, you can have it on either shoulder, or you can plug it into the back of his head, like so. Very snug fit, like once it's in, it's very secure. And that, is just something that you can do if you want, but it does also give you the added advantage of being able to provide a little seat for the Zarek, mini Zarek Headmaster from Scorponok. And I just think that's adorable, absolutely adorable. What can I say? Just look. I don't know why it makes me laugh. It does. It's just, imagine riding into battle like that. Whoa. Just very funny. I just love the kind of, I don't know, the posturing of it all and everything. But it's adorable, absolutely adorable. I don't know, if nothing else, you have to admire their creativity, right? Like, I never would have thought of making a little nub on that blade weapon, which is how Zarek attaches. It's just very clever. What can I say? Yeah, and again, it's just interesting to see, what an upgrade this is versus the original, but also versus, this version of Full Tilt that came with Titan's Return Triptychon. Because actually this is, I really like this particular part of that toy, but it is a much simpler thing overall. And I can't help thinking that actually had they included Fasttrack with Scorponok, it wouldn't have been to the level that we're seeing here. So if anything, yeah, it is weird that it's a kind of separate thing, but it's probably advantageous as well because there's so much more you know, kind of depth and love gone into it, which is great. Oh yeah, and final thing before I forget is that actually you can deploy this little connector piece. You have to untab the bottom section with the wheels, and it just kind of folds out from you know, inside the chest, the robot mode chest, which of course is the back of the vehicle here, and that connects to some of the Micromaster battle stations like Ironworks and what have you, and he can kind of pull them along, which is really, really cool. Sadly, I don't have any of those in hand, so I can't show you, but that is what that's for. Now, one thing I will say for Fasttrack in his vehicle mode is that he looks absolutely excellent positioned right in the middle of Scorponok's base mode. I mean, Scorponok's base mode is huge anyway, it's like a real thing to contend with, but that just fits absolutely brilliantly right there, I think, in pride of place. What a joy. And in many ways, I feel like this guy, you know, Scorponok, is now kind of more fully complete with Fasttrack just in there. I mean, just check him out, making full use of that ramp, if nothing else. So yeah, I think they work really well together here. I mean, ultimately, I'm really looking forward to the DNA design upgrade kit for Scorponok as well, but it's fair to say that I do think that Fasttrack, you know, adds quite a bit to this base mode. Anyway, let's go ahead and check out one of those other modes, shall we? Okay, well that's Transformation 2 done, and this is Fasttrack in his Weaponizer mode. And of course, it might look a little bit bizarre, but it's intended to be a kind of like a wearable weapon, basically, and then this is a little shield. So you can go ahead and attach it to any of the kind of Earthrise or other War for Cybertron figures, as we'll see. Right, well the instructions show you doing this with Run Amok, but in the absence of him being available right now, then we'll check him out with Trailbreaker. And like, you know, a lot of the War for Cybertron figures have these little ports on their backs, and that is ultimately what connects to this little bit on Fasttrack. So you just go ahead and plug it in, like so, and then he can wear it as a weapon. Then of course you've got this little shield section as well, and I did just neglect during transformation to plug in the end, which of course is that little shield tip that just goes in like so. So it's not just a shield, it's a kind of blade as well, and that will just plug into the arm port like that. And there you go, that's the finished look, and I actually think it's really, really ace, has to be said. Love the way that this blade weapon comes together. I think that's really nice on the old arm there. And even the guns, you know, it looks a bit mahoosive and a bit ridiculous, but I think it's kind of cool. I mean, it's a really fun inclusion, not the kind of thing that, to be honest, you know, we've really kind of seen before with a lot of these sorts of figures, but you know, the War for Cybertron line is really kind of, you know, getting quite creative in that regard, and I think this is a good example of that. It does make the toy quite back heavy, obviously, with this huge backpack on there now. Trailbreaker is taking it like a boss. You may just have to lean them forward ever so slightly, but of course I'm sure some toys it'll work better with than others. I mean, I already tried it on the old alternate universe Optimus Prime, and that didn't work so well, just on account of there not being enough backpack to kind of secure it in place. You know, Fasttrack had a tendency to kind of flop around a little bit, but I think this works pretty nicely. I'll be keen to try it on Run Amok or Runabout soon, hopefully. Anyway, let's go ahead and check out the final mode on this guy, so it's time for final transformation as well. Okay, fourth and final mode, and just showing how much creativity you can wring out of one little thing, eh? Because this is, well, it's not a snake, or it's not a boat, or whatever other creative things you might imagine. It's actually a spear, and it's a bit bizarre, but it's, in case you're not aware, it's a homage to G1 Black Zarek, actually, which was a repaint of Scorponok, a very notorious repaint in black and gold, suffers notoriously with GPS, which is sadly the reason I don't have it. I can't show you that one. But basically that came with a red spear accessory, but then it also came with a repaint of the G1 Fasttrack named Black Rorichi, and indeed, you know, there is a repaint of this guy, Black Rorichi, in the as a Generations release as well, in gold colours. So it's kind of a little homage to that Black Zarek spear. Anyway, that's the whole point of it. And I do think that this looks very cool, actually, considering, you know, how it's made and whatever else. I think they've done quite a nice job with it. I mean, let's not kid ourselves that this isn't like several arms and a body and some legs just kind of tabbed together, right? But actually, you know, it looks pretty cool for what it could have been like. I'm actually quite impressed. It's quite creative how they've managed to tab these arms together. I think there's a lot of little hidden slots on this thing that, you know, don't really detract from the look when it's in robot mode or whatever else, but actually it all kind of comes together quite nicely. What is a little bit bizarre in this mode is that there's nowhere for this part of the body to go. So you do just end up with his chest and head section just kind of separate. Little bit strange, but hey ho, there you go. Let's take a look at it in Scorponok's hands. And there you go, it just kind of holds into his claw just like that, and does look pretty menacing. I will say it doesn't fit particularly well. It does rely on the friction of the claw, which is fine. I mean, there is actually like a little hole just there, which kind of goes over one of the kind of, you know, sort of spikes in his claw, and sort of steadies it a little bit, but you will have to kind of grip the claw quite tightly in order for it to stay, because otherwise you can see there it's just kind of rattle around a little bit. So that's fine, but it works well enough, honestly, and it does look pretty ace. Really though, looking at this guy all on his own, it's hard to not think of him as a bit of a success. I honestly think it's a great design. The robot mode is ace. The vehicle mode, the main vehicle mode, is really nicely done as well, and a great homage to the original Fasttrack toy. You know, and the other two modes are fun. So what can I say? Really, I think that they've got really creative with this. It was a simple design to begin with, and they've really made the most of it. And yeah, it's a toot. So that's Earthrise Fasttrack. Now I'll put a link to TIFF sources listing for this guy in the video description, and I'll be aiming to get the full photo review up on their blog soon. Otherwise, that's it from me, so don't forget to drop me a like if you enjoyed today's video, and have a great rest of your day. TTFN.